Yo.
Welcome, man.
How's it going?
It's going killer.
This is some spot.
Welcome to the garage. Or you would say garage.
Garage. So what is your official role at Marin?
My official role is senior product manager. What does that actually mean? I'm in charge of our full suspension mountain bikes as well as our agro hardtail line. And so my job is to make sure that they look good, ride well, and kick ass.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. It'd be cool to know what your background in bikes is and how you've got to where you are now.
Yeah, I started riding mountain bikes pretty seriously probably when I was about 16 years old in LA. And I went to college in Chico State, started picking up a lot more heavily and started racing collegiate, downhill, and dual slalom. And from there, I started racing on the Norman National scene and climbed up into the semi-pro ranks. And then I actually had a really bad injury racing downhill and pretty lucky to be walking, quite frankly. But that's when my life kind of changed direction. Because after that, when I was all healed up, I got the job at Specialized. And that's really when the basis of my biking knowledge that I have today really started to grow. And the foundation of that was built in the suspension department.
All the stuff you've learned, we've heard that you apply not just in the top level bikes at Marin, but also like all the way down to the low range bikes as well.
The key point there is in the suspension lab, we really learned what part the shock and the fork play in the total ecosystem of the bike. And each shock designer is doing things specifically to fit this whole myriad of designs we're using. So there's so many options in there, and that's what I learned when I was down there in the trenches.
So you pretty much tailor all the bikes to the shock that is going to be stocked on those complete bikes?
For sure.
Or is it a case of designing the frame and then trying different shocks in it?
One of the keys there, and it's a little bit of our secret sauce, is...
not so secret sauce soon.
Yeah, we're about to not so secrety sauce. The key is, and I think a lot of things that people don't realize is, these designers are designing shocks to fit everybody. So if you're far outside a normal of where someone is in curves, that shock's probably not going to work that well on your bike. So one thing we do is we talk to the suspension companies about our bikes and our curves to make sure they're within the window of what they're making things for. So that's where it starts. Okay. We ride it for a little bit, and then we arrange a test with those techs, and we go out with a couple levels of riders, weights, and styles to make sure that everyone is feeling super good on that setup and that shock. And then we kind of reverse back and make sure it works for a full range of riders' weight, and that's most important for rebound, really. But yeah, so that's the process, and we do it every bike, every time.
Well, speaking of bikes, I can spot what looks like a early prototype of the Alpine Trail E1.
We got a new down tube storage system now. Yeah, this is our first prototype of our Alpine Trail E. So it got used and abused and beat down, and now I'm happy to have a production version. But
when you have like that clean slate, where do you even start with something like this?
Yeah, well, it starts inside the computer. Start with data, research on what's out there, what we want to make and bring to market, work with the engineers and designers. This new bike was interesting for us because it was our first e-bike, so it was our first internal battery, so there was a lot to learn. It's been a really fun process, but it takes usually about 18 to 24 months, depending on the frame and the level of complexity.
From when you like start drawing something on the computer to when you have something out in the trails.
Exactly, yeah. And then the key for us is that not only myself riding the bike with a myriad of other riders with their skill levels, because everyone's a little bit different. So it's nice to have a little bit different pool to pull from for the rider feedback.
Is this your assistant?
Assistant product manager, Shiloh. She is an unpaid intern at Marin. She's been there for 5 years. We really like her.
Marin mascot?
That's right. Huh, Shiloh?
I thought she was maybe a trail dog, but you said she's more of a...
She's more of a chiller dog.
More of a chiller. The last 5 years you've had at Marin, if you had to pick one bike that encapsulates that sort of made for fun ethos, what would it be?
Being that I'm coming from a downhill background, my personal favorite choice is the Alpine Trail, just because it has the most travel, it's the most aggressive, and this most kind of style riding I like to do. Mm-hmm. And it also kind of has the most fun launch backstory of any bike we've ever launched. We went to launch it in, 2018. To be launched in 2019, and we went to Crankworks. We weren't really ready to launch, but we were like, we're going. So we shipped some bikes out. We're sitting in this parking lot, just drove around for 45 minutes looking for Loctite to try to get these bolts together. We're splayed out everywhere, parts are everywhere, minimal tools, just trying to get the job done and button everything up, Loctite it, JB weld it. We're like, all right, let's go. And everything worked out. The bikes performed flawlessly, but it was kind of stressful the night before, but it really ended up being a super fun story.
I guess cycling's been fairly on the up for the last few years, but it's definitely been a little
Yeah,
additional peak in the last couple of years.
I agree.
What's your take on it all, and what's your thoughts for the future?
Well, the biggest thing is it's made work really busy and quite complicated. But I'm just hoping that the people we are seeing new on bikes stay with it and, you know, becoming active and happy users in the bicycle world.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, more people on bikes is better. You know, everyone gets all butthurt sometimes about trails getting used and things like that. But the more people on bikes means more people looking at building trails and more times for having fun and being happy with a smile on your face. So you cannot be mad at that.
Exactly. So Matthew Cipes, thanks for showing us around and filling us in your stories. It's definitely been enlightening, to say the least, and hear how everything happens with what you do as well as Marin at Hull. So really cool to see.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for stopping by. Let's go shred.
Let's do it. Really forced. Yeah. I'll go for the handshake and you go for the...
Do the thumb war.